Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is out there for anyone listening. I'm Corey Lowe. I'm from Chicago. Let's begin. Now, on February 7th, 2023, I had the pleasure of interviewing a Miss Linda Steele. She's in the fitness world. She's all about fitness and mental health. She has a rich history in fitness and exercising. She's a personal trainer now. She used to own gyms. She's had a very good, successful career and owns businesses as well here in the Chicagoland. I got to sit down and talk to her for a little bit. This is the interview you're going to hear today. As always, please like, share, and if you have prayer requests, please reach out to me. Enjoy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. For anyone listening out there, I just want to say hello, and I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Guard Your Heart podcast. I'm Corey Lowe, and today it is my honor to have Linda Steele here, a fitness expert, not just of the body, but of the mind as well. A lady with a very kind, strong heart, with a story to tell that was not supposed to rhyme, but it did. Welcome today, Linda.
Thank you, Corey. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored.
All right. As the honor is all mine. Now, just a little backstory. She reached out to me because she wanted to talk about trauma and overcoming trauma and dealing with it and how to actually turn that into a strength. This is the Guard Your Heart podcast. And as you all know, I'm all about dealing with trauma. I'm all about coping and trying to improve and reach out and be better. So Linda, with that being said, what is some of your experience with trauma that would even make you study and focus in this area?
You know, Corey, I have childhood trauma. It goes way back, and we can't help but bring our childhood trauma into our adult relationships because trauma is there with us all the time. It never really goes away. We learn how to work alongside it. We learn how to adapt. We learn how to manage, but it's always there. And what I found throughout my years of life was that my childhood trauma seemed to follow me into my adult relationships. I seemed to have a pattern of behavior and get myself into situations that turned, unhealthy and toxic in some situations, in some instances, I should say. And I had to somehow dig my way out of them once I got my way into them because I realized that it was just, more than I can handle. So, I work with people. I'm a fitness expert, as you mentioned, and I have a clientele that I've built up over the last almost 2 decades. And I have one thing in common with all of my clients. We all have our own stories, and we all have our own trauma and BS that we have to work alongside. And, how do we do it? How do we still maintain our jobs and be good at what we do? How do we still maintain being a good mom or a good dad? How do we maintain relationships with our family, our friends?
Right.
It could be very difficult. So I just thought that, since I'm giving this advice to clients hour by hour by hour, because it's, we don't just work out and talk about nutrition. We actually, talk about life too while we're, in each other's presence. And I thought I would get my story on paper. I wound up writing a book called Nerves of Steel. And it's my story. It's my memoir. And I talk about and I focus on childhood trauma, how we have to deal with it and how it becomes manageable. What's the easiest way to manage it? And what I have found throughout my experience and my clients' experience is that when you start eating clean and you start working out regularly and you start taking care of your body, you start taking care of your mind. And when you can think clearly and you have really good self-worth and really good self-esteem, you start making some really hard decisions that need to be made in order to advance you in life, in order to keep yourself healthy.
Okay. Now, why exactly did you just say that you start taking care of your mind after you start, changing up your diets and, exercising? What's the correlation?
Well, there are chemical reactions that go on in the body when you start exercising, resistance training and working your cardiovascular system that actually, for brain health. And there are different hormonal changes that go on in the body as well. And, because of the makeup of our body and our brain, the way that all works, your body gets into a nice balance and you actually start to feel good and you start to be able to focus much better and you see things more clearly. So there's a definite connection between working out, eating clean, and your well-being, your
Hmm.
healthy mental state.
Okay. Now, when did you realize that you were in an unhealthy cycle, as you mentioned earlier? Because I noticed you said that you were just doing the same things, bringing it into your adult relationships. At what point did you realize that you were in that negative cycle that needed to be addressed and changed?
Unfortunately, once I was in too deep in a couple instances, and that's because the toxicity and the unhealthy part of it sneaks up on you. Depending on the kind of person that you attract, they sometimes will see a vulnerable person who is in a position where they might need rescuing or they may need a change of pace or something, and you wind up really getting attached to that, you getting dependent, I should say, on somebody who is treating you very well and doing really good things for you, um, satisfying your needs in a bunch of different ways. And it's hard to break away from that because some of these types of people, along with the good comes the bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you wind up spending a lot of time weighing that out and you try to figure out is the, like the risk to benefit kind of thing. And you start to, you know, try to talk yourself into or out of certain situations based on the person that they used to be or the good things that they once did for you. And so, it's just easy to get stuck into situations. So, but once, like I said, once you start recognizing it and you start putting things in a perspective, or I guess I should say, once you start working out, eating clean, you can more easily put things into perspective and start
Right.
making decisions.
Mm-hmm. And how hard was it for you personally once you realized that you needed to get out of that situation?
Extremely. Each
Mm-hmm.
situation of mine was very difficult. But I will tell you this, as life's gone on, it's become easier. And I think it's because my first situation that I had to get out of, I had to create a 5-year plan. That's how long it took me to get out because there were little children involved. There were a financial situation involved. I didn't have a job. I was a stay-at-home mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I had not completed my college degree yet. And so I had to make a plan to get myself in shape, get my college degree finished, get my little ones in school so that I can get a job and support myself. And that was a very difficult and scary changeover for
Mm-hmm.
me. And there were a lot of people disappointed because of it, because I was breaking up this, what appeared to be a beautiful family. So that was my first plan. That was my first escape, and it was very, very difficult.
I'm actually glad you just said that because that leads me to my next question. I know that sometimes people are dealing with things and they can't necessarily express it, and sometimes they may try to, but you know, take me for example. I would be on the outside. I wouldn't really understand what you're going through. What would what would you advise somebody like me who sees potential trauma in somebody else? Like, how could I help them or just be there for them? What would you say?
That is a fantastic question because a lot of people just want to go, why don't you just leave them? What is the big deal? Just get out of it because it seems so easy. but it's not. There are usually so many different variables and so many different factors to take into consideration, and only the people involved are the ones who really know it. The best advice I can give you in a situation like that, Corey, is that you just be there for the person, because what the person ultimately needs is a really good support group. If they can get enough people supporting them, they will feel a little bit more brave, and they'll be able to do what they know they have to do. It's embarrassing to ask for help. So it's going to be unusual for someone to ask you. But if you say, without even saying, you don't even have to say, hey, your boyfriend's a jerk, or your wife's a, you know what, you don't even say that. All you have, it's like two people in the room. We both know what's going on. Really, all you have to say is, when you need me, I'm going to be here for you. And you can count on me for whatever it is. If you need me for money, if you need me for a place to stay, if you need me to, just to talk to, bounce ideas off of, I will be here for you. And they'll know exactly what you mean by that.
Wow, that's good. Unfortunately, I find it rather, I don't want to say depressing, but just really, I just feel really sad sometimes when I think about how in this day and age, something like that is still an issue, where it's really hard for people to get support. And even if they're getting support, it's almost unhealthy sometimes, where they're beating down the victim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. It's hard to get, again, it's hard to get support because some people don't want to get involved. They don't want to offer, money, or they can't offer money. They don't want to offer a place to stay. And that's no problem. I mean, I don't necessarily want to bring anybody into my home either if they're trying to escape from a bad situation. But sometimes people just need to know that they do have someone in case they need you. That's really it. Again, building a support group was a crucial part of me being able to escape the situations that I was in.
So in your line of work, have you had many opportunities where, after the workouts are done or things like that, they talk to you, your clients, and they share with you potential personal problems?
Every day, almost every hour of every day. There have been, I can't even count on both hands in my career how many times a client has walked in the door for their hour to work out. They'll come into my office, sit down in a chair, talk, cry, yell, scream, laugh, whatever, and we never lift one weight. It happens more often than you think. And that's just part of, and they still feel better when they leave. They felt like they lifted weights and did cardio when they haven't done a thing. They've just gotten some things off their chest, maybe sorted through a problem or a situation. And it happens more often than you think.
Right.